So I've got an empty room in my new apartment that I was planning on turning into an office. Mm-hmm. And I just realized last night that what I could do with it instead is just leave it empty and let it be the room that I play VR in. So I've got like a whole room to move around in.
Holy shit.
I'm considering it loosely.
Get everything to be like fold away.
Ooh, that would be
like
even better.
Put a bed in there, but what's it called? A Murphy bed?
Yeah, well, I wasn't even I was gonna turn it into an office. I was gonna put a desk and shit in there.
They have desks too that fold up. They're expensive.
I might get one of those. There's some that you can get that you just mount on the wall and then they fold out that are pretty cheap, but that's a little bit too small for what I want to do with it. But leaving the room empty and just being able to play VR in there all the time could be pretty fucking sweet.
Be sick, dude.
Because back when you and I were living together, what I used to have to do is I would just clear out like the whole living room, like push all the furniture up against the walls, and then play that way. Yeah. I love the new VR headsets. They're so much fucking fun.
Dude, I still haven't gotten into them. The couple times I played them, I'm just like, this is just too much shit on my face. It's like heavy and weird, and it feels weird, and it's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing having somebody watch you do it.
Yeah.
But the Oculus, I was surprised at how compact it is. The Quest 2, you got the Quest 2 you were saying?
Yeah, the new one.
Yeah, I was surprised at how compact it was, and you don't need to connect it to anything. It's got its own application program where you can just download games and shit. Mm-hmm. There's some way that you can connect it to a computer that I haven't been able to get it to work with my computer yet. So you can actually
it's probably too advanced for you.
It must be, because I cannot figure out how the fuck to get that shit to work. It never works for me. And that's how you can play. It's
starting to feel like magic again. That's how you know how old you're getting. Like when tech starts to become magic again. That's when you're old.
It's always been magic.
It's always been, yeah.
I actually have a drone story about how it's all magic.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's hear the drone story.
Well, let's just get into it.
Oh yeah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? You are a listener. Where do you live? Here in Texas?
No, I'm from Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I drove in for shows.
Well, we appreciate you driving in. You actually sent us a message on it. Originally, it was a message on YouTube, and then you sent us a email talking about the UFO episode that we did.
Yeah, you gave me an email, and yeah.
So I guess we should say what we're doing, right? Before we get into it. This is sort of like a tangent episode.
It's
a
like
tangent
from
the Aliens Exist episode, which is like episode 30 something.
I think it was something like that. I don't have the number on my.
But it's called Aliens Exist, and we covered like 3 different UFO sightings that are debatable, and then this motherfucker David just showed up in the comments being like, "I'm a military drone fucking operator. I know some shit about these things."
Yeah.
And then he showed up, and I was drinking with him, just doing shots of vodka and whiskey and tequila. And we had some strippers and stuff, and.
Well, it was the day that...
I was like, who are you? And then he didn't even tell me who he was for like a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't ask. No, that was the day that I met your brother, Michael.
Yeah,
Michael Cooper.
Michael Cooper. Him and I are estranged.
Yeah.
We don't talk to each other.
He's strange, all right.
Yeah. He's definitely strange.
Good guy, though.
Well, that's debatable.
You guys look a lot different.
Oddly into Pippi Longstockings, like
very
really,
into Pippi Longstockings.
Really into.
He was into Pippi Longstockings back when we were little kids.
Is it stockings or stocking?
Stocking.
Oh,
yeah.
So Pippi Longstockings. See, I don't even know that much about
either.
About
but yeah,
Pippi.
he keeps messaging me saying if we could do a part 2. I didn't know it wasn't you. I just thought it was because you guys look so similar.
We're twins.
Yeah.
He was born. I think he was born 8 minutes before me.
It was like 20 minutes in when he started.
He holds
saying
that over my head,
Michael,
constantly.
It was confusing at first. I didn't know you had a twin brother.
Yeah, I hated that episode. He got all the good genes. We're supposed to be twins, and somehow he's more talented and funny than I am.
He really shines on the mic. Where
he does.
Yeah. You're.
It's kind of
little hit or miss.
Yeah.
That's exactly how my mom says it too.
Sounds, and you're kind of like.
Yeah. That's exactly what my mother says.
Intro?
So anyway, Welcome to the Iconoblast Podcast. This is the show that takes a look behind the public facades of famous icons to show you why you can never take anything at face value. My name is Cooper, and across from me, as always, wearing a sick-ass headband today.
Yeah. Oh. There.
There you go. That was cooler. Is
That
Joel
cool?
Arbener.
And then we have, can we say your name? Or is it illegal?
Yeah, I don't care.
Introduce yourself to that camera there.
I'm David Cline.
David Cline.
I don't really have anything else to promote except that I flew drones for a little bit.
And that's why you're here in the studio
Yeah,
today.
that's my only value today.
Got no blast. We put the past on blast. Hit 'em with the truth, with things you never knew. Nobody is safe, no thing to place. Got Joel and Coop with history in your face. Got a blast.
We were having some heated debates about the veracity of the UFO videos that were released, and we were discussing the way that the cameras work on like the FLIR cameras work and everything like
Gimbal.
that. And yeah, there was
All that shit.
3 videos: Gimbal, Go Fast, and FLIR. But you were just saying that you had a drone story that you wanted to tell us before we started.
Yeah, we
off.
should. Is it the story I know that you told me?
No, it was just a funny story from when I was going through training. It's not related to UFOs.
You should tell that.
It was about how it's magic, though. It's all magic.
Let's hear that first, but then you
Yeah.
got to tell so people know. One of the coolest things ever that you said.
Yeah,
you
we'll-
know what it is.
we'll get
right?
into- yeah, we'll
yeah,
get into
because
that
that was why I was like, dude, we got to do an episode about this.
Yeah, don't let me forget, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely go into that one. It's a fun story. Anyway, it's all magic. So when I was going through the training for the Shadow platform, I got paired up in the simulator with a guy who had already had like a aerospace engineering degree, and he had already done like internships with NASA, and he was way overqualified for the Army UAS program.
Crazy.
How did he end up in the Army if he had already been working for NASA?
Well, he was in the National Guard.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny because he actually missed out on a job because he signed up. Like,
Oh,
he
really?
got a call back from
Fuck, that
Boeing,
sucks.
I think, like a week after he signed his contract.
That would have been a lot of money,
And he
I
was
would
like,
imagine.
yeah, it would have been good for him. So he missed out on that job. He ended up getting another good job, though. Anyway, the way the simulator works is basically the instructor tries to be a total dick about everything and get you to explain stuff even if you're right. Mm-hmm. Like, they just want to know that you know every single thing you can possibly know. Mm-hmm. And he does. Like, they couldn't stump him, is the thing. Everybody had a point that their knowledge ran out. Like, it was all Linux-based computers. They would go down the Linux path, and very few people know that going in. Mm-hmm. But he would go in and he would talk about aerodynamics and engineering and all the stuff that you could possibly want to know about a drone, because he helped build a space station.
That's
He-
fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I would love
it's
to
insane.
be able to say that.
And I would just sit back in the simulator and listen to him answer questions. I'm like, oh yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'm just a retarded kid from Alabama.
Yeah.
I wasn't even there on purpose, but
Your last name's not Gump?
isn't
he from Alabama?
Yeah, might as well be.
It's from Greenbow, Alabama. I
Greenbow,
think.
Alabama.
Yep.
Is that where you're from?
Might as well be.
Did
It's-
you sleep with Forrest Gump? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Your
his-
dad?
I-
He's your daddy.
His mom.
I'm not Jenny.
So good, you don't have AIDS.
Yeah, I definitely don't have AIDS. Well,
As far as you know. You
fairly
been-
certain I don't have AIDS.
You ever been tested?
Pretty soon.
I have, but
For
it's been a
AIDS?
while. I should probably get tested, actually. Anyway.
Anyway, magic drones.
Magic drones. So this instructor was going down this rabbit hole of asking him another question. Well, how does that work? Well, why would that happen? And at some point, he just finally goes, magic. But not like a sarcastic answer, like that's the answer. And the guy goes, okay, explain that. And he's like, well, at some point, a bunch of ones and zeros turn into real actions from a plane flying in a different zip code. And we don't really have a good answer for why that stuff works. But we know that it does, and we use it.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit, I've never heard that before. I've
You can only go so
The
far
ones
down.
and zeros are the magic?
The ones and zeros, the way that a processor works is ones and zeros are on and off.
Yeah, binary.
And it goes through those threads, but we don't know. Like, you can go further than that. That's electricity. We only know so much about electricity. Mm-hmm. We only know so much about how we're able to capture it. You can go far enough down any rabbit hole to where it might as well be magic, because we don't really understand on the smallest level how anything works.
Are you,
We're working our way towards it.
are you talking about like once you get into quantum mechanics,
Yeah.
that then it's just a
yeah,
whole bunch of
there
weird
comes a
spooky
point.
shit?
Yeah, there comes a point where it's all theory,
Quantum mechanics. It's
but it
69.
works. It's like what's the thing where is it photons act as a wave and
Yeah,
a particle until
until they're observed.
and then they have to choose.
It's a probability wave or something. I'm not real smart
Yeah.
when it comes to quantum
Yeah.
mechanics, but it's like it
I've
collapses a probability wave once it's observed.
But all that's theoretical, and there's an actual real answer because it actually really happens. Mm-hmm. But we can only get so far.
That's one of the things that is it Moore's law, where every X amount of years the processing power of computers doubles?
Yeah, I
I
think so.
think it's Moore's law.
I believe so.
Who the fuck is Moore? Some dead guy?
Alan Moore, he created Watchmen. It's his law.
What,
It's
the
not.
cool dude with the Rorschach face?
Well, no, the Alan Moore is the one that looks like Gandalf. But it wasn't
Gandalf
until
has magic.
and Gandalf's holy shit
There's always a connection.
comes back around.
That's quantum physics right there in a nutshell.
That's literally everything that you need to know about quantum physics. You are now an expert. But I'm pretty sure it's Moore's law that says that every so many years the processing power of every 2 years
Every
the
2
processing
years,
powers of
processing
computer
power doubles.
Mm-hmm. And that's recently started to reach its limit, and that's due to quantum physics because at the smallest level, so you can only make a processor so small before quantum tunneling starts affecting what direction the electrons are going to be going. So an electron will literally teleport from, I mean, just to make it simple, it'll teleport like from one tiny little wire to another tiny little wire, and that's putting a limit on our processing capabilities because we can't control that aspect of what they call quantum tunneling, where these tiny, tiny little things will just suddenly appear in a different spot. And I think that's also the whole quantum theory is what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. And he didn't believe in it, but that's like one of the few things that he was actually wrong about.
Well, nobody bats 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it's not real. Like, some people don't believe in aliens.
I believe in aliens. I do not believe that
people
they
don't.
have ever been to Earth. That's my hard line in the sand where I don't believe that aliens have ever been to Earth.
And then if one day we find out that they have been, you'll be like, oh, fuck.
I'd be like, no, that's bullshit.
You're going to stick to it.
No, I'm gonna stick to my
fake
guns.
news.
Yeah.
Deep,
There's like
deep
literally,
fake aliens.
there's like an old man alien on our show, and he's like, I've been here for 2,000 years, Coop. Here's my proof. He's like, no, you're not an alien.
You don't exist.
Were you born here? You're not an alien.
So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is we're going to be talking about aliens once again, or primarily UFOs, or these 3 specific UFO videos that were released a handful of
Over
years
time.
ago.
Wait, will you tell the story while you're on the show? This is why I kept bugging Coop, like, we got to get him on, because this is a really fucking cool story. And it kind of made me think, like, oh, fuck. Weird.
So we were talking about it that night, and I had talked about how I had written in for the UFO episode, and I absolutely believe in UFOs because I've been one.
Oh,
That's so cool.
And
You've been a UFO.
Yeah, absolutely, and I have a story that proves
That's
it.
so sick. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a super dork, but that, like, when he said that to me, I was like, oh, fuck. I've never even heard anyone say that before, and I've never heard anyone talk from that perspective. You've been the UFO. Like, in those videos, you've been that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
So I was flying over Iraq and looking for ISIS dudes back when it was really hot over there. They were easy to find. And
Iraq was just filthy with ISIS members.
yeah. Well, I mean, where I was, we were like 5 miles from the line, where we didn't really go. We only sent bombs over there. So
ISIS care packages.
yeah. So that there was no real deterrent other than raining hell from the sky, and they could never really predict that. They didn't have the technology. Anyway, so I'm flying, and I guess I was flying in exactly the right conditions where they could actually hear the drone. So it was nighttime in the middle of nowhere in kind of the cool season.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no ambient sound. It's wide open, and the air when it's cold is more dense.
Yeah, it transmits
and
sound
it carries.
easier.
Yeah. So I was probably
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I was probably in just the right conditions where they could actually hear me.
How far away from them were you?
Let me do some quick math. So about 3,500 feet vertical difference.
How many football fields is that?
35?
Okay.
Oh, no, 3,500 feet. I
that's like-
I can't math.
So that's
like-
3 feet a yard. It's 100 yards for a football field. Feet, I can't see in feet. Like, I can't see distance in feet.
Well, no,
I
you
only
see with
can
your
see
eyes.
it-
You don't see with your feet.
Well, I can. If you tell me in football fields, I can picture exactly how far away it is.
3,500 feet, so that's what, 700 yards?
So seven football fields away.
Vertically.
Fuck. Straight up.
Vertically, but I'm also
Okay.
offset because you never look straight down.
They could hear the drone from 7 football fields away.
More than 7 football fields.
Yeah.
So if you draw
How
a
big is the
triangle, it's
drone?
the hypotenuse. It's
What kind of drone were you flying?
it was the Aerosonde. That's about 80 pounds. 12
So,
foot
like-
wingspan.
I was gonna say like 7 feet or something. So 12 feet.
Yeah, I think it's 12 foot wingspan.
And
You
it looks
said
like a
those
little
are-
plane.
Those are battery powered? We were talking about
No,
that
no,
before the show. They're
it's
not.
fuel powered. I was just saying that you'd never want your batteries to die because if you do need them,
They've got
if
like
the engine kills and the battery's shit, then you just don't know where it went.
Oh, okay.
If the battery's on and the engine kills, you can at least follow it
Mhm.
and have a good idea where it landed.
Okay, I see
Where
what
it
you're saying.
crashed.
So you're flying.
It's a 12-foot. It looks like a little plane, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Yeah, they're not like the common drones that look like helicopters and shit.
this.
Well, I think
that's
the
first
most
one.
common drones look like. Oh, you're talking
I'm
about
talking
like
about
the,
just like the commoner
consumer
the common
drones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
Yeah, no,
Phantom
it's
4,
a
Phantom
fixed
5.
wing, so it's an airplane. Get some images. This is closer to what it
Oh,
looks
shit,
like
that
today.
looks- dude, that's like that game 1942.
That's closer to what it looks like.
Oh shit! It does look like the plane from 1942.
Yeah.
Is it 1942 or 19? Whatever that
Dude, the
sick-ass
sick-ass
top
Nintendo.
down bullet hell
6-bit,
game.
Yeah.
And so I'm flying over here.
So you're flying over these fuckers 7 football fields away.
Yeah, more than 7 because it's whatever the
Probably
hypotenuse
8.
of that would be.
Probably 8.
I can't trigonometry, so
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but
A good
more
8.
than 7 football fields is still really fucking far away.
And they could hear it?
Yeah, and it's like a 2-stroke engine, so it's
Sounds
not
like a dirt
loud.
bike.
Yeah, it sounds like a weed eater.
Like a moped
yeah.
7 football fields away.
So anyway, I'm watching them, and they're like digging in the ground. It's 2 dudes digging in the ground, which is in the
It's
middle
at
of
night?
It's at night. It's
I'm
like-
sure they were just planting flowers.
Yeah, I'm sure that it was just some night gardening.
Yeah.
But
What were they doing?
well, eventually nothing. That's how that one ended.
Eventually, they were meeting their maker.
Was it
Spoiler
landmine
alert.
stuff?
They didn't have a very long life after that. But anyway, we see them and they're digging. They're hunched over, and then they're like they perk up, and then they look kind of around in the air, and then kind of like towards the camera, and they start firing an AK in the air, just kind of spraying. And in the room, we're all laughing at them. That these fucking retards. They think they're gonna shoot us. Like, do you know how small this footprint is from that distance?
Yeah,
That's just crazy.
hitting
They
a
could even-
moving
they
object from
noticed
that
it?
far.
Either
They noticed it by the sound. They managed to figure out kind of the area,
I
and
think
then
it was
spray.
like reflecting, like the moonlight was reflecting off it in a weird way. Because you know how sometimes you can just see something in the sky when it's in the right position.
I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah.
It's not reflective. Like what they coated in is a matte finish. So unless it,
So it's dark.
If it's reflecting light, it's not doing its job right.
yeah,
Yeah.
unless it just managed to hit like the nav lights just right. That's the only kind of reflective surface there
So they
is.
couldn't see it. They literally just heard a buzz.
Yeah, They had to have. That's the only thing that I can make sense out of.
And they were just shooting AKs in the air
Yeah,
at it.
they're just, you see the muzzle flashes because it's obviously an IR. So you're just seeing the heat come out of the barrel of the gun. And we're making fun of them, calling them retards and all this other stuff because we're smart Americans and whatever. And the bird comes back hours later, like a lot later, and it's got a dime-sized hole in the wing.
No fucking way.
So the wing's hollow, so it goes through both layers, and it's perfectly lined up, and we're like,
They got it.
They
got
actually
it.
fucking hit it.
they fucking got it. And I had to fill out.
Holy shit. That's like the equivalent of winning the lottery.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
And then I had to fill out a lot of paperwork, so I felt less bad about killing them.
I'm sure you didn't feel too bad about killing
No,
them in the
not
first
really.
place. I mean, considering they're members of ISIS,
Yeah.
I think that's like the closest thing that we can get to modern day Nazis outside of the Azov battalion in Ukraine. But
friends with them
we're
now.
all rooting for them now.
So that's cool. So you were a UFO.
So that's my UFO story, where I was the UFO.
That's
I hope,
fucking
I
awesome.
hope they're like, it's a fucking alien. Ah! They're like terrified.
Yeah, they're just really they're actually gardening and just really scared of aliens. Like, we're fucking atheists. We're not a part of any of this. That's why we live out here.
Yeah, you find out later they were actually planting food.
Yeah, they're just really scared.
And they were terrified.
really scared of aliens. That's why they do it at night.
They were just burying their poor beloved donkey.
No.
Very beloved.
Very, very well. Technically, I guess they would call him a girlfriend.
Was that who was telling the story about the guy that was fucking a donkey?
But
I think that was Dan.
Oh, Holloway talked about that.
But most
Yeah,
people
there's
that
a
have
lot of
stories
stories
like
that come out of Iraq.
Hey, when they don't know that anybody's looking, I've seen a lot of shit go down.
Oh, I can imagine.
A lot of and just two dudes figuring some stuff out.
with each other.
Yeah.
Learning.
Figuring
Yeah,
out,
just
like-
they got the flock of sheep there. They're on the hillside, and they're like, you know what? I saw this movie called Brokeback Mountain. They made some strong points.
Let's try it.
Why can't I quit you?
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway,
So yeah, you've
the man in the room has been a UFO to somebody. I
and-
just
and
thought that was cool.
You've got, I mean, I would assume a lot of experience with infrared cameras and obviously
Yeah.
drones and things like that. Is that a similar camera system to what they would have been using on the jets in these UFO videos?
functionally, yes. Theirs would probably just be bigger and better at like zooming and processing and stuff like that. But in function, it's an identical process. Yeah.
So with a FLIR camera, is it FLIR or FLIR?
FLIR.
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 Okay, FLIR. With a FLIR camera, they must not operate the same way as a normal camera that's capturing light, because it's not capturing light. Do they have similar lenses or anything like that?
So it kind of works the same, but it's also totally different because it's taking a heat signature, and through all the processors and computing power and AI, it's building that into a visible image that your eye can figure out what it's looking at. So, but it's kind of the same for the most part. There's just some caveats that you see in practice trying to use it and know what you're looking at.
Okay, so what we're going to do for this episode, since it's referencing a previous episode that we did, I'm actually just going to go through a portion of the notes that I was using for the last show. Somewhere in the 30s. It's called UFOs Exist,
Aliens exist.
or Aliens Exist.
I'll look up the number and, so people
and
can watch it if they want.
As I go through these notes, just at any point jump in and fill in any of the gaps that we have. So there are 3 videos currently in circulation that have garnered a lot of attention. They are called Gimble, Go Fast, and FLIR. We will go over these videos one by one, and I will once again ruin the magic and mystery so everyone can be as miserable as I am. Yeah, going back and anytime I read through notes after I haven't seen them for a long time, especially like the Valentine's Day episode that we did, I'm a bitter fucking person.
That's why we love you, Coop.
The Gimbal video was filmed in 2015 by a Navy fighter jet from the USS Theodore Roosevelt off the coast of Florida. It shows an object seemingly hovering in the air and rotating in strange ways. An interesting part of the video is the strange pocket of cold air around the UFO, which seems to defy the laws of thermodynamics.
Episode 33, Aliens Exist.
Episode 33.
Yeah.
So this is a very late addendum to episode 33. Tangent.
Technically, tangent number 3.
So the shape of the object, as well as the strange rotation, can be explained by the camera being used. It was a gimbal-mounted, advanced targeting forward-looking infrared, or FLIR. Many
Prototype.
Many other videos captured by this type of camera produce similar effects due to the software used to stabilize the image, as well as artifacts from the hardware itself. So when you're looking at an object through one of these FLIR cameras, is it common to see what appears to be a cold pocket of air around it?
From my experience, that typically happens when your camera's not really set up to use IR yet. So the way that it works, because it's looking at heat signatures, is they're typically nitrogen cooled, so that there's basically a little plate up inside of the gimbal that's nitrogen cooled. So whenever you on the aerosol, it's called a flat field correction. I think it's a NUC table on most other platforms. It basically looks up and sees what cold is. So the sensor looks at what cold is, resets its brain for what cold is, and then goes back down. And it usually clears up. Like if you look at the footage, a lot of it looks super grainy. It'll usually get rid of that, and it'll get rid of that kind of ghosting effect as well.
So for a FLIR camera, it needs to constantly calibrate like the ambient temperature?
Yeah, pretty consistently. Well,
So are you saying
few
that
hours.
this was just
they
they weren't using the equipment right?
probably weren't ready to use it. And then once you've got a little target that you're trying to look at, you don't want to pull the camera up and lose the target. 'Cause you have to
so
stop looking at it
to set the ambient temperature, you actually need to point. It's almost like white balancing a camera.
Yeah.
You need to point it at a known cold spot so it knows.
You actually have to
what
do that
cold it is.
with cinema cameras as well. Like if you are shooting, let's say day one you're shooting in 100-degree weather, and then the next day you're shooting in 0 weather, you have to recalibrate the sensor, and because for some reason the temperature will fuck everything up. I don't understand it. Yeah, we had to do it on that one of the dinosaur fucking kids movies I made. The camera was having trouble. Like the colors looked off, and I was like, "What is this?" And I started researching. And they're like, "Oh, you have to recalibrate for temperature," and for some reason, it affects sensors and the sensors seeing what colors are outside.
That's weird.
I don't know if it's the
I didn't
same
know
as this,
that,
but you have
I didn't
to do
know
that,
temperature affected cinema cameras also.
Yeah, it definitely affects batteries, which is fucking annoying. Like,
Yeah,
we were
that's
out there
for
in
sure.
freezing weather, and we had like 8 Anton Bauer batteries that normally last like 4 hours each, and they were lasting about 30 minutes because of the cold.
So, do you think that this cold pocket of air surrounding this object in the, I think it was the Gimble video? Yeah, the Gimble video. Do you think that is evidence of something violating the laws of thermodynamics, or is it just an artifact from the camera system itself? Like it hadn't been calibrated properly?
I would say that's probably the camera.
Okay.
Because I've looked at people standing around fires and haven't seen that kind of an effect out of looking directly at fire.
Yeah. So if you're droning and it's super dark, so you're exposed for that, and then you come across a fire, what does it look like? What happens? What do you have to do?
Actually, that's another question that I have as far as exposure goes. Do you need to? So when you calibrate it for the ambient temperature, does that essentially set the exposure?
It probably resets everything to 0, and then
that's kind of the infrared version of exposure.
Okay, so
Because you're not looking at light.
Yeah.
That is what it is for heat signatures.
Okay.
They're the same thing, but for different expressions of energy.
yeah, so if you were looking at something and it's fucked up, you look up, recalibrate. When you look back, it should look better, right?
Well,
Or clearer.
Typically, it's an overall degradation of the image.
Okay, so you're
And
just getting rid of
where you
grain.
get that.
and
That's where you get
qual-
rid of the grainy and
Okay.
and- yeah.
That happens a lot in like the blacks in cinema. Like even you don't even know why it's happening. But
Joel, it's African American now.
no,
Do we have to drink for that
drink
one?
for that.
Oh shit! Yeah,
The dark-
drink.
David knows the game. I like that.
Yeah. I've played before.
But yeah, sometimes for whatever reason, temperature, climate, or reasons I don't really know. I'm sure there's a list of something that causes this, but in cinema cameras, your black levels will get all fucked up and they'll just be grainy. Like even in a nice, perfectly shot scene, all the darks will just have grain, digital grain. And you're like, why? You're like, oh, we just have to do a black balance. And that's when you do a black balance, and all of a sudden the blacks are fucking crisp and black again.
I think one of the things that was making the whole conversation confusing during the UFO episode was the difference between how an actual cinema or a normal camera works compared to a FLIR camera, because it's capturing, like you were just saying, it's capturing a different type of energy.
Yeah.
Well, it's capturing, if it's IR, literally all cinema cameras are shooting in IR. And then there's literally a filter that just gets put in front of the sensor to turn IR into what we see.
On that note, yes and no. So there's different upon the spectrum of energy. So you've got like visible waves, you've got radio waves, and then you've got the infrared waves. But infrared is also divided into sections. So there's like different bands of infrared.
It goes like beyond the visible spectrum, that's ultraviolet, right? And then if you go in the opposite direction, that's infrared?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's divided into bands, and when you're looking at heat signatures, it's called mid-wave infrared, MWIR. And what you're talking about is still light. It's still an expression
still using light.
Yeah. And it's, I think that's shortwave.
Okay.
Because that's one of the caveats is if you're using a thermal camera, it's infrared, but if you have an infrared beacon, it can't see it.
Really?
Yeah, because it's using shortwave. I think it's shortwave. It's either short or long wave infrared. And
so much shit that we can't see. I like that.
So that
we're looking at
even within the spectrum of infrared, they're differentiating between shortwave and longwave. Because as far as I know, and midwave. Because I mean, from my understanding of infrared, like that's all longwave.
No,
it's not.
It's longer than visible.
Yeah, longer than visible. It's on.
Within that section of the frequency.
There's a short, mid, and long
band.
Okay, so they're breaking that up into. Each other.
So if you have a camera for one side of that infrared, it can't see the shortwave infrared.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. Thermal cameras can't see infrared light. They can see heat signatures.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That.
Yeah. It's a different expression of energy.
Yeah, because essentially, I'm probably going to butcher this explanation and get some of the terms wrong, but it's like if you look at the frequency of light, or the frequency of an energy wave, on the very, very, very low end of the spectrum, you've got infrared, which is a really, really long waveform. And then the higher you go up the spectrum, closer to ultraviolet, the waveform gets shorter and shorter. So the distance between the peaks of a waveform get closer and closer together.
Yes.
So essentially what they're doing is they're taking that part of the spectrum that falls in the infrared spectrum, and they're breaking that up into smaller pieces, and there's certain cameras that can detect
sub bands and.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like the difference between.
So do they just have filters for that, or do they need a whole different camera setup? Because
I would think that they would need like a completely different type of device to.
I think it'd just be a filter, but maybe I'm wrong. I guess that's more complicated.
Further down the rabbit hole than I've ever had to go before.
Yeah, because I know like with just cinema cameras, there's like the first Black Magic cameras that came out had horrible problems with
African American magic
with drink.
Isn't that voodoo?
God damn it!
As soon as I said it, I was thinking the same thing.
But like with the Black Magic, the first like 3 or 4 cameras had these severe IR issues. Like if you shot indoors, you were fine, but as soon as you went outdoor, anything with dark colors, blacks, were purple, and you had to get IR filters. But like literally, you could just take an IR filter, put it in front of the lens, and it would fix the image. And depending on how much IR you were dealing with, you'd have to add more filters or have a stronger filter.
Is an IR filter the same as an ND filter?
ND
those-
just cuts light in general, makes it darker. IR doesn't do anything. Like your eye, you can't see it.
Oh, okay.
But they also have IR filters that are also ND, so you can get an IR 9, which is an IR filter plus 9 ND filter, and so it'll darken the sunlight and then also get rid of the IR discoloring.
I didn't know that cinema cameras picked up that much infrared.
Only when they're shitty. All the good ones, like when Blackmagic first came out, they were so cheap, but they are like, hey, we haven't figured out how to get rid of this IR problem. Like the original GoPros, I don't know about the new ones, but like Evan used to do this all the time. He would you could pull it apart, just pull out the IR filter, and then all of a sudden they would act like night vision cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Because you could IR is, for whatever reason, I don't know the tech on this, but it's easier for cameras just to see in infrared. Like you could see everything. Like when you pull a little filter out, all of a sudden at night we could see everything, but it looks almost like invert color. Your eyes are just white and fucking, your hair is the wrong color and everything's all fucked up and weird looking, but you could see so much more in the room. Mm-hmm. And then you put the filter back and then you see colors and everything, but then it's so dark and the grain shows up, and because it's like way harder for sensors, however they are made, to see the same way we see.
Well, they see more than we do.
Right, but
They're better than us.
yeah, you have to
And we don't know what to do with that. Like even with your
Exactly.
cell phone cameras, if you hold up a remote, like a TV remote that has
Oh, you can actually see the
light.
infrared light. That's
Yeah.
a good point. I didn't even think of that.
yeah.
So we'll
We should just get into one of these. Oh wait, tell that I talk about the when you're exposed for darkness and then you come across the fire. Like I remember you told me that story about the 5 dudes you couldn't see or whatever.
Yeah. So, and that was a common thing.
Yeah.
So essentially, like the way that the image, the way that the processor in the camera builds the image, is it takes whatever is in the frame, and it takes the coldest pixel and the hottest pixel, and it sets everything as it sets, depending on whether it's black hot or white hot. It sets the coldest pixel as absolute white and the hottest pixel is absolute black, and everything else falls
Or
in
the-
as a
or
shade
the
of gray.
inverse,
Or the
depending on-
inverse.
yeah.
But everything else is whatever shade of gray corresponds to that scale.
Is that what do you guys call that? Is that dynamic range?
It just does it on its own.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I think
so
it would essentially
it changes-
dynamic range. Yeah.
The reason that I bring that up is because it changes when you come across something that's so absurdly hot compared to everything around it. So if it's nighttime, for example, in the winter, so it's kind of cold, 40 degrees, 30 degrees sometimes. The camera's set up for ranges around 30 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So like a brick wall is going to be close to the same. Water does weird stuff when you look at it in IR.
What does it look like?
It looks like the opposite of what it should. Instead of it looking like, if you're in, say, black hot, it should be the coldest thing in there. It'll be black. It'll look like the hottest thing.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Interesting.
Or at least I don't have the answer for it. It probably does make sense somehow that I just don't know.
Magic.
I just have to know. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
magic.
it's magic.
It's magic.
Interesting.
So it does weird things, but it's pretty easily noticeable because you can still kind of see the waves in it.
Like that's water.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and-
obviously a puddle or a lake or whatever.
Yeah, and
it's obvious to tell.
one of the UFO videos that we talked about, you can actually see the ocean behind the object that they're filming because they're way up over the top of it,
Yeah.
looking down at it at an angle, and yeah, the water you can tell that it's water, but it does look weird.
And the only reason that it looked as good as it did in that image is because it was only water. There was no land to also mess up the algorithm.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's
That's the only reason that looked as good as it does. But when you're talking about the weird, I keep saying expression, the weird expression of energy, it's different coming from land than it is from water. I don't have a good answer for why that is, but I've seen it a lot.
Must be something where you can see into the water, and land you only can see on the surface of it.
well, no, even if you look at IR, at least the IR videos that I've seen of water, you don't actually see into the water. It's
No,
still
you don't.
reflecting off of the surface.
Yeah, well, with your eye, you can't see it, but I think maybe something with the sensor because it is without
No,
knowing seeing
what-
layers,
whatever-
and compacting those layers because they think it's a solid.
Whatever is under the water would have to be giving off so much heat that it's coming through the water up out into the air.
Right.
Which is probably giving off steam at that point.
So yeah, that would mean that it would actually have to heat up the water around it enough,
Yeah.
like all the way up to the surface. It
Yeah.
would have to heat up the water enough.
Yeah, so
for
even if it
the
was
camera to
right
be
under
able
the
to
water
pick
and
it up.
moving, it should be cooling off the surface of whatever it is fast enough that you're not
You're
really
not
going to see it.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
wouldn't.
point.
I wouldn't think so, but I've never had to test that theory.
Well, I just know that cameras have a hard time with anything that is like see-through-ish. Like for example, if there's a fish in water in a lake that's super clear, but it's got a little bit of fog, you try to get your camera to focus on a fish in the water, it'll just focus on the surface and know it's doing something wrong. So the camera just be like
It's just freaking out.
yeah, the focus just goes out of control. Mm-hmm. It's the same as if you shoot through like a screen door. Like if you even with your phone, you can test it. Like if you shoot through a screen door and try to shoot somebody that's just walking by, the camera is just like, I don't understand how I see two things at different distances. There's something wrong, and it just fucks up, or it just picks one and it's probably the wrong one. So I think maybe there's some connection with that in water and
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. I would have to think
like,
about that.
what about
first.
clouds? Like thick clouds and
Clouds.
fog. Like it
Actually-
probably fucks with it in a weird, similar way.
You can't see through them.
It just
Yeah,
stops.
you
Yeah.
just see whatever. I mean, obviously there's a certain thinness where you're starting to see
Starting
through
to
it.
see through. Yeah.
But it's
at some point the camera's
typically-
like, that's a wall.
Typically, if it shows up as fog, like if you would look at it and see fog and not be able to see through it, then the sensor's not going to be able to see through it either.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
why.
'cause-
That's why. Like, if it was ever going to be like clouds lower than than our lowest safe altitude, then we just wouldn't fly until they were
There's no
gone.
point,
Because
yeah.
there's a risk to flying through clouds to get up above them, and once you're above them, there's no point.
So ISIS
You
needs
just
to
can't
make
see anything.
underwater bases and bases in the clouds to hide from the drones.
Well, don't give them advice.
Wait, hold on. Let's go back to the fire thing.
Oh, yeah, the fire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
'cause I thought that was important.
so
'Cause it matches with these images and stuff.
it would match to the ambient temperature roundabout and set the scale based off of what it's looking at, which is all pretty close to the same. Mm-hmm. And there's, I mean, right at sun up and sundown, it's called thermal crossover, where everything that stays usually on the hotter side becomes colder because things are conductive and anything that gets hot fast also gets cold fast.
So,
So
as soon
it
as the
just
sun
switches.
leaves, it's just like
Yeah,
freezing up.
and you typically have to reset your camera a lot during that time, or go into, if you really need it, what's called near IR, and it stacks the image of what's called electro-optical, which is just regular, on top of IR. So it kind of cuts through the darkness for the EO, and it kind of cuts through the thermal crossover for the IR. Anyway, so when you're set up and it's cold and whatever, you look at a fire and it really blows out the image. It's like if you look directly at a light that's not diffused,
Yeah.
and you can't see anything around it. It's by far the hottest thing, and it resets the entire scale for that to be the hottest thing.
So
It fucks it up.
it will adjust that on the
Yeah.
fly. You don't need to actually tell it to adjust. It
It does that automatically.
Okay.
Otherwise, we would constantly be having to, every time we went across a new anything, we would have to reset the scale.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because
So
temperatures vary so much, and the way that temperatures come off of surfaces is kind of like photons. They don't come off all directly at the sensor. Mm-hmm. They come off at weird angles, so you get less heat off of a curve, and you can see like the shapes of buildings and make out what looks like a real normal image.
okay, I see what you're saying. So what happened with this fire that Joel was just talking about?
Typically, and this is just something I found out in practice, when you see something that's super hot like that, and fires are not uncommon. Like, they're a good way, not everybody has power
Especially
out
in
there.
a war zone.
Yeah, it's sometimes the only heat you've got, other than your buddy. And
Your battle buddy.
Or your donkey.
Snuggle buddy at that
So-
point.
Your snuggle donkey.
yeah, you're still- so you look at it and you're like, oh, it's just a fire, and it looks small comparative to the whole image, which could be an entire compound.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, oh, it's just a fire, but you turn the contrast all the way down, and you see there's 5 dudes standing around it, and it was completely blowing
shit.
out all of their heat signatures because it's so much hotter than they are.
So that would be like
But that was a
stopping down
manual
the
move.
stopping down the aperture.
That was
Right.
something
Or-
that I would have to do.
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah,
Okay. So you're
but that you'd have to do manually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would have to know to do that.
and that that story is important because in some of these images we were talking about how maybe the person running the machine or running the camera didn't do that, and that's why it looks so.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, they obviously didn't do that, and I can show you why.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we could jump into that. Let's,
So which one are we on? We're on the gimbal?
yeah, we're talking about Gimbal. We were specifically talking about the pocket of cold air surrounding
Right.
it, which I've actually seen in other FLIR videos of known objects that it'll have almost a black outline to it.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing is when you're doing things on the fly, especially if it's daytime, you're not thinking about your IR camera a lot, and they're training off the coast of the U.S., so they probably weren't that worried about the IR going into it. And that it's kind of the trap of not keeping it set, not consistently going back and resetting it, even if you're not using it, because it's not ready for whatever you're about to jump into.
Okay. So in terms, we're looking at the Gimbal video. Joel, do you want to do a
Yeah.
overlay for this, like for the video version?
Right about here?
Where do you think it should go?
Right about
Well, we're in the wide, so right
about there.
here.
Maybe if David does it, it won't be a whale penis.
Well, I'll be disappointed. I drove all the way for nothing if it's not.
Okay, I'll just track a whale penis to your face for the whole video,
Okay.
starting now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But let's see. What are we talking
All right, so we're starting at the very beginning of the gimbal video.
So
Yeah.
just one of the things to first look at, this number right here is the gimbal angle.
-2 degrees.
-2 degrees from looking straight out in front. So it's like it's almost level with it.
Okay.
So that's one thing. This is probably the yaw. What are we looking at? Yeah, this number is probably like the direction.
At the
like
top
on a
of the
compass.
screen, in the middle, at the top, it says IR 54 degrees. Is that what you're
54
talking about?
degrees L, and then the first number that he was mentioning was the -2 degrees on the
On the
left side of the
left.
screen.
So if you're looking this up right now, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah, so just for reference, if you want to know what some of this stuff means,
Yes.
that's what it is. But I can tell that this is obviously blown out because you're not seeing any kind of detail on it, right?
Okay.
You can't see any lines. You can't see anything at all except that it's a shape there. It's a two-dimensional shape, effectively.
And
Yeah.
they
Right.
could have brought the contrast down or
Right.
adjusted the camera to actually see what the fuck.
And
they're
you would have
looking at.
gotten more definition. It would have been.
You would have gotten
a
more
sharper image.
definition out of the actual object, but you wouldn't be able to see the definition in the clouds at all. That's how I know that they didn't bring it down.
Oh, okay.
Because everything around it would just look gray. It would be such a soft transition between everything that it would be just a big gray blob behind it. But you would get definition out of that.
Okay.
Interesting. So do you
That's
think,
how I know that they didn't.
Now is that on purpose or is that just like they're flying in a fucking jet and they're freaking out because they see something and they're not remembering their training or
I have no clue.
Or is it
I've never done this from inside of a jet, so I don't want to
right? So
say
maybe
what they're doing or why they're doing it,
or are they fucking with us?
or what it's like.
Did they purposely bring up the contrast or the opposite to make it look like an object to like fuck with everybody?
My best guess, because at this point they don't know that this is going to become this either. So
Yeah.
they could, in theory, look at it and do what they're training to do and gather intelligence on it.
Is this the one with the audio where they're like freaking out
I believe so.
and they're like, "Oh, there's other options. There's other ones on the radar." Like they say that
Yeah,
there's
they
more
say
than
that,
one,
but they're like,
but you never see it.
yeah,
no
we never
footage
see
of it,
anything
yeah.
from that. Yeah. So I can't say why. I do know that with a higher contrast between this and the background, it's easier to keep a track box on it, which they've obviously got because that's what those two lines next to it are. That's a
Okay.
track box. So
So
they're not sitting there moving the stick and keeping the camera on it. It's the track box, the
It's locked onto it all.
camera's on
It's
its
The
on
AI
at
is
that point.
the AI is doing all the work.
Yeah.
So they may be keeping the contrast high so that it can hold on to it and see where it goes.
In one of the videos, they actually mentioned that you can hear them talking about how they're trying to lock onto it, and then when they finally lock onto it, they're happy because they were able to track it at that speed.
It's the one over the water. You can see where they're trying to get the track box on it.
Yeah,
and
and
then it misses, and then they finally get it.
I think that was Go Fast, if
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
remembering correctly.
Maybe.
So the cold pocket of air, the seemingly cold pocket of air around this object, you think that can be attributed to just pretty much the exposure being wrong for.
Yeah, being wrong for the situation. That would be my guess.
Okay.
And
What do you think that image is? What do you think that object is? Play it.
yeah, that's
Like, just looking at it, like, what do you think it is?
it's hard to say, obviously, because I would
So
not.
right now, if this was your shot, what would you do right now?
I would drop the contrast down a
So
lot.
they just went from white hot to black hot.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's BLK down at the bottom. That's telling you it's in black hot, just for reference.
Yeah.
Because
Bottom
sometimes I've had people try to be like, "What are we in?" Because it's hard to tell sometimes.
So that part right there, we kind of got into this part when it
It seems
does
like it
some
rotates.
it does some weird angles. Like it changes.
Yeah, it kind of. Well, it looks like it's also changing direction, right? Or changing speed, at least.
I corrected the video so the cloud line was always vertical, and then the intensity of the angle turning was less.
So the two lines on the outside of the center point, that's level, right?
That's the
Yeah, that's the
line?
horizon. That's the
Okay.
horizon line.
So what do you think could cause that
It just
rotation
looks like
effect
a plane banking, doesn't it?
right there?
It could be, yeah. That's a good call. It could be that. It's hard to tell because with it as blown out as it is in this image, all you're seeing is the expression of heat. You're not seeing enough details to say, okay, it's hot, but it's also this shape, and this is the front, and this is maybe there's a wing coming out of the side. You can't tell.
If you were tracking a plane, would the whole thing be hot like that? Even the wings and the whole shape of it.
I would assume it'd be different from the ambient temperature, just from the heat of the engine. Then also even the minor amount of friction from the air would probably change the temperature of the material.
Yeah, that is one thing that's kind of strange. Is this seems pretty consistently hot. There's no like flares, no plumes of
You
anything.
can't tell where the motors are.
Yeah, but you can't tell. That's the thing, is it's so hard to tell.
If you
But I would have dropped the
Normally-
contrast down to get some kind of information out of it and piece together from there.
Okay.
But that looks like a plane. Like, if you were blown out shooting a plane, it would look like that.
It doesn't look like any plane that I've seen, but I've never stayed in that kind of an image before. If
Right.
I was looking at anything, I would never stay in that kind of image.
It's like your
'Cause it's
go-to
also
is
boring.
adjust.
It's also boring to not have any clue what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the goal. And again, from a drone operator's perspective, I'm not anywhere near what I'm looking at. There's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of danger. Like, I'm just a dude who's looking at a computer.
Yeah, this dude's actually in the.
Yeah, this dude is actually,
In
and
the
he's
camera.
also. I mean, I don't know how much of the autopilot takes over for these kind of jets, but the autopilot does all the work for me.
Yeah, my stepbrother would be able to answer that question because he flies F-18s for the Navy, and I want to have him on the show at some point, but I don't know how much he can actually talk about because he got in trouble
Well-
for taking a picture inside of his cockpit once.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, well,
The pictures. The thing is, when there's
it wasn't even
evidence like
showing
that-
any of the like instruments on the inside of the cockpit, but he still got a little slap on the wrist for taking a picture there. In
When in doubt, don't take a picture.
yeah.
So before we move on from this one, what would you final analysis of this? Is there anything else that seems off or weird or interesting at all, or do you think this is just bad camera operating?
It's not how I would do it if I wanted information. If I wanted to see what it was, I wouldn't do it this way.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying, is like, I'm also not flying an actual plane. Right.
So there's
Like-
but there's some sort of user
Yeah.
error going on.
Yeah.
That could cause this.
Yeah.
Or let's say he did bring the well, he wouldn't because you know he didn't because the clouds would be gone. Okay.
Yeah. I can tell what he didn't do.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you
Interesting.
what that is because I can't see any more than a blown out heat signature.
Oh, okay.
Just like if I'm looking at a fire, I can't tell you that there's 5 dudes around it unless I do
Unless you
what he
adjust the
didn't do
camera.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So overall, the
And the fact that this is only 30 seconds of this part, 34 seconds, it makes me think that there's more where he did actually get to adjust it. Or it's even, I don't know this to be true, so don't get mad. I'm not spilling secrets that I know. It may, but chances are he can probably hand off control of the camera to somebody on the ground.
yeah, that's a good point.
So this
So
may
the
be
longer version of this, they might have done the contrast.
yeah. This might be
Well, this was an official video released by the Pentagon, if I remember correctly. So I don't know why they would only release a part that is.
I can think of reasons why they would only release part.
So could I.
It's very simple ones. They don't want you to see the rest of it. Whatever they
That's
saw,
true.
they don't want you to see it. Or it may be that they only want you to see this.
And it could
And
be
this
for
is-
different reasons. Maybe it's a fucking alien, or maybe it's not. So they want you to only see the part that makes you think it's an alien.
To be a distraction.
Distraction for something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially with like the time period that these came out, it seems like they're trying to fuel conspiracy more than they are stop it.
I've noticed that, and that seems
Like
kind of suspect to me.
we're at a point in the information age where you don't really get away with just saying, "Oh, it's this," and people take your word for it. Mm-hmm. And people have plenty of reason not to take the government's word for it anymore, right?
Well, the government's never lied to us before.
I mean, there's a meme that I always
That's
reshare.
culturally insensitive to me.
Oh, okay. I'll drink for that too. I actually need another ranch water. Or I'm going to grab one of these hard AFs.
Quick, this is something with all 3 videos, like the quality.
Yeah, so
Is that
this looks right to me.
quality wise?
Yeah, because I had brought that up the other day. This looks right because you can see how clear the overlays are. So this is probably as good a quality as they were going to get without doing a flat field correction on the infrared sensor. Because all these overlays are sitting on top of the image.
They're baked in.
So that's about the resolution that you would have. Like you're probably seeing the same thing the pilot did, or anybody else who's watching the feed.
Okay.
Is that the case for all the videos?
That's probably no. There's one of them that is clearly not the
It's
right
been
resolution.
tampered with?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's what I like.
with the gimbal video in particular, what you're seeing in that video is all of the information captured by the camera that anybody would have access to, or do you think that there's a larger scale of the image where this thing is just a tiny little dot in the middle, or that's exactly what they were capturing?
No, this is exactly what they were capturing because
Okay.
the whole point of putting them around like that is so that it's in your peripheral vision.
Okay.
So that while you're actually gathering the intelligence, it's right there, but it's not in the way. So if I had another 2 inches of image this way, then they would be in between me, and it's the same
Is there,
reason.
do they do digital zooms and stuff?
Yeah, for infrared, it's all digital.
So is there like an original raw, not zoomed in shot
Probably somewhere deep in
in a file somewhere?
yeah.
So
Probably.
do you have zoom controls like in general? Like you're zooming in and out on
Yeah,
everything? Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's
you
all
can zoom in
digital.
and out.
Or is it?
For infrared, I believe so. I believe that's the only way you can do it. I don't think a lens is actually refracting heat.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
But you can still use a lens to get closer and further away. Like I put lenses on top of IR cameras, and you can still like zoom in. It gets darker as you go. But
Yeah, I think this is all digital.
okay,
yeah, I would
So they
think
have
they
a-
would all be
they probably have
digital.
a fucking
'Cause you're also
badass lens.
you're
You know
also
what kind of lenses they use?
Zooming, I don't know. They're all proprietary.
Yeah.
They're all specific. For
I mean, I would-
companies.
Do you see it? Have you seen it? What it looks like?
Actually, no, because I've never been.
It's in the drone.
Well, it's in the drone, but I've never been. I'm not an engineer on the camera, so I'm not allowed to crack them open.
I'd like to know how big they are, what they look like, because I would That would help me with my brain.
The lenses themselves.
Yeah.
From my understanding, the way that the lenses work on a true like military grade FLIR camera, you can't really focus heat the way that you can light. It's just capturing pure information. So I would think that it would have to be a digital
fixed
zoom
lens. So it's a prime.
Probably.
I
would
guess.
think
Yeah,
so.
I guess that's something to look into.
I would think so.
So the next video that we're going to be talking about is the Go Fast. And the Go Fast video was also filmed in 2015 by a Navy fighter jet, also from the USS Theodore Roosevelt off the coast of Florida. In this video, an object is seen skimming along the surface of the ocean at an extreme speed. What makes the Go Fast video intriguing is that the object appeared to be traveling at high speeds but didn't give off any heat, once again breaking the laws of thermodynamics. This would imply that it was using some sort of propulsion technology that, like I said, defies the laws of thermodynamics, but some nerds online using trigonometry, which I do not understand, were able to figure out the object wasn't moving fast at all, according to their calculations. So due to the angle the object was filmed at and the speed of the jet filming it, once again, an effect called the parallaxing effect came into play. This makes it appear that the object was moving quickly across the surface of the ocean, but in actuality, it was the jet that was hauling ass, which was flying at around 50% the speed of sound. So this is one of the ones that we were debating during the Aliens Exist episode, where
How do you really know? How
yeah,
fast
when
it's
the
going?
when the object when the focal point of the camera is essentially going to work as a fulcrum, like it's going to be like the center of a lever. So wouldn't the background be moving at the same speed, or roughly the same speed as the object capturing the image?
So I got the video pulled up right here. And one thing that I noticed first off is it's kind of going down towards the bottom left corner of the screen.
Yeah, it's moving. Okay.
So the thing about these cameras is they can only look so far down. Because after you go around, how do you even make a joystick understand what to do anymore?
I think what's it called? There's a gimbal lock or something like that.
Yeah. So that's been the case on everything that I've ever used. Again, I'm only speaking from the two platforms I've ever flown. But you can only go down so far, and but that means that down is always towards you.
Down is always towards you.
So yeah. So if something is going to the bottom of the screen, it's coming towards me.
Okay.
Especially
It's
if
coming
you're higher
towards
than it,
towards
right?
the aircraft. That's just there's no way that the image has flipped because it can't go past straight down. There's no
Okay.
way that down can be up. in a
So,
way.
in terms of the perceived speed of the object, do you think that it matches up with its true speed, or is it?
What was the speed that the nerds, smart people thought it was?
No,
in the
I
end?
don't remember.
It was something short. It was like 20 miles
It was
an hour or
pretty
something?
much the wind speed.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's hard to say because there's so many unknown variables, right? Like we know that if the whatever it is coming kind of this way, and I'm going this way, then the background's going to look like it's moving fast as fuck. Because I'm focused on that. It's like,
Well, so you're saying that if the object that you're locked onto is coming towards you, but you're also going at a different direction, like
yeah, you're also
it's
going,
moving down and to the left. You're moving to
You're
the right.
going to opposite direction.
So it would look like it's moving the combined speed of the
'Cause
two
like-
objects.
Like if you focus on this, and then out of your periphery try to see the background, you see how fast the background looks like it's moving. Now, if you do the same thing, but you're moving that way, the opposite direction of what it is, it looks like it's moving three
Twice
times as fast.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's
And that's all
the
relative
parallaxing
to
effect.
the actual speed of both of you. Mm-hmm. So if it looks like it's going fast as fuck, it might be, but I don't know how fast the jet's going either.
Yeah, I think it. According to my notes, I haven't gone back and touched these up at all, but according to my notes, it was moving at about 50% the speed of sound, which is pretty fucking fast.
fast
It's
as
like
fuck.
250 miles an hour.
The fact that it's also over water means that the background is moving as well.
Yeah.
Which just
Which
there's
direction?
this.
Who knows?
Who fucking knows? And who knows how fast?
How fast can water move in the ocean?
Well,
I mean,
you're only seeing the
water's-
waves move.
Yeah, the water's just moving in general.
You see,
So I
this is
think
where he's
that-
trying to get the track box on it.
Yeah.
That one spot right there where the object is moving through the frame without the
the
camera
background
locked
moving.
onto it, I think that's the only part where it seems like the object is actually moving
Super
quickly.
fast. Yeah.
Because once it locks on, then your point of view is going to be, or your interpretation of the speed is going to be thrown off by the movement of both of the objects and the rotation of the camera. So, I mean, it does look like it's moving
So do you think it's
decently
moving
fast.
towards the jet at the same time?
If it is, it's not moving vertically very fast.
It's like
Or are you just talking
it's-
about like kind of that direction?
It's staying the same. Do you think it's staying the same distance from the water?
If
whole
it's
time?
going up in altitude, it's not doing it very fast, like a couple feet per minute maybe. It's not fast.
And there's none of these readings tell you like what direction the fucking jet's moving or anything like that.
No, all of that would be on his actual dashboard.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to put that information out to
Right.
other people.
Right.
It's irrelevant and it's going to confuse people because not everybody knows how to separate things like that.
Yeah.
Compartmentalize what you're looking at.
Right. That makes sense. So when you look at this, how fast do you think that thing's going? Just dummy ballpark. Like if you just saw it for the first time and someone said, how fast is that going?
It's whatever the wind speed is, a reasonable wind speed over open ocean seems reasonable to me.
So that looks like it's going.
It could be a balloon just going.
Just getting blown across
Yeah.
the surface of the ocean.
Could it be
That-
going faster?
That
like if
doesn't seem-
someone
Well, that's the other thing is we don't know if it's
would you believe
this
it?
close to the camera or way the fuck out there.
So let's just
we don't
say
know
that
how
your,
far it is.
Your superior officer or whatever was like, here's the proof. That thing's going 300 miles an hour. If you watch it now, knowing that it's going 300 miles an hour, would you be like, he's fucking full of shit? Or is
Probably.
it possible?
Probably because he's an officer.
Good answer.
Well, let's-
If he's an officer and says,
Okay, forget all
I
that,
know
but you know what
this,"
I mean.
and you don't know what you're talking about, even though you do this constantly all the time,
But, okay.
I'm probably going to say,
X
yes,
that,
sir,
X that,
you
but
got it. and he's going to think he was right, and I'm going to know the truth.
and you're going to be able to spend the
Or
rest of
I'm-
your day in peace.
Or I'm going to be willing to say that I don't know, and he's not.
So what if, okay, you know what I meant. If your fucking bro that you trust was like, that thing was going 300 miles an hour, and you looked at it with fresh eyes thinking, okay, if my bro says it's going 300 and you watch this, is it possible?
Him being a friend of mine doesn't make the science make sense to me.
So when you see that, there's no way it's going faster than wind speed?
I'm not saying there's no way. I'm saying
What's
it
the
doesn't.
fastest that could be
It
going? I guess
doesn't
that's what
look.
I'm asking.
It doesn't look like it to me.
What's the fastest in your mind from what all the droning you've done? How fast could it be, possibly? Like, I mean, it's probably going wind speed. That makes sense. But what is the opposite end of that? Like, how fast could it possibly ever be going? Because a lot of people thought it was like going faster than possible or something. Like,
No,
people thought it
I
was-
would be surprised if it was going faster than 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
And that's on the extreme end, just giving it every bit of
Of luck.
leeway. Yeah, the wind's
Okay.
blowing just
So it-
right, and it's reducing whatever drag could be
Oh,
building
okay,
up.
yeah,
so
that-
the nerds are right.
It doesn't look like it's going that fast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's which they call it the go fast video just because of the perceived speed, but from all of
Because
the
a lot of
information
people
that I've been
thought it
able
was going super
to
fast.
look up, the
And like
math just doesn't
right
check
at the
out.
beginning, all of what makes it look like it's going fast is how jerky the camera is. It's not because it looks like it's going fast. It's because he has to jerk the camera over
So-
to try and get that track box. Once it's a smooth motion, that makes sense to me.
What is this number here? Top right. The RNG F.0? Or
Well, that's
4.0?
4.0. It's probably giving you some kind of range, but those are typically not super accurate. unless you can get like an actual laser rangefinder that you have to turn on and off, but you're not using a laser rangefinder on that.
So but that would be guessing that it's what, 4 miles away,
That's probably using like
or the range of where the ground is.
like GPS. It's probably cross-referencing GPS and altitude for where the stare point is.
Oh, okay.
So
What's the stare point?
essentially it's whatever the center is
The
where
focal
where
point.
the crosshairs would go.
Okay, so it's not the
it's-
object; it's the background.
That's what I'm saying. It's using maps to figure out based off of where the plane is and the angle that it's looking at,
okay.
how far the ground would
That
be
makes sense.
based off of GPS information.
Okay.
So that
Whereas
whole thing is
a-
happening within 4 miles of the background, the
If
jet,
it's right.
and the unidentified flying object is approximately 4 miles.
Maybe. But
Maybe.
it's probably in kilometers, honestly. If you're doing range.
So it's closer than 4 miles.
yeah.
Okay.
But even this is kind of a rough estimation based off of all the GPS stuff.
Right. So it's
If
not
you
completely
want
accurate.
if you want accurate stuff, you have to use a laser rangefinder, but there's no way a laser rangefinder is getting anything off of that.
So there's
'cause
no
even-
way for
even-
for like from what you were doing. There's no way, like, let's say this was you flying your drone. There's no way for you to know how far away the ground is, how far away you are, and how far away the object is, all in parallel with each other.
I probably could, but I would have more information in front of me than just what's on the screen.
Because that was something that we got caught up on, like not knowing how close that image is. The nerds were like, I think they're equal, and that makes it way easier with math. If the jet is at the equal distance of the object to the background, then it's like perfectly lined up, right? And I was like, how is that possible? That all three lined up perfectly like that? That doesn't seem like that's true, but maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The information that I found said that the rough estimate was the object was equidistant from the water as it was to the jet itself that was filming
Yeah.
it.
My question would be, how do you know that? Because I can't look at anything on this screen and tell you that with any certainty at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's how I felt.
Yeah, that's interesting. If that information isn't actually there, because I don't know how to read these displays the way that you do, and if that information isn't there on the screen,
So this is going to be a rough approximation, but it could be like half a click off. It
Oh,
could be drastically off, just because
And
science is
also,
weird.
that thing could be moving, the jet could be moving towards it, and it could be moving towards the jet.
Yeah, they are at
could
least
be
kind of
moving-
like
they're not
ang-
moving exactly parallel.
angle.
Right,
Yeah.
obviously.
If they were moving parallel, let's see. So if they were moving parallel,
Because it's
it would
negative
be
29 degrees down, right?
well, it's looking down, but it would be going directly this way if they were moving completely parallel to each other. Mm-hmm. It would be going off to the side of the screen. It's
Okay.
going that the direction it's moving is towards this corner.
the bottom left
So
corner.
it's coming kind of parallel, but also crabbed into towards the aircraft.
Okay.
And I can tell that from the direction it's obviously moving.
So after 30 seconds, that distance is changing between the three things. So there's no way it would be. They're not staying at an exact parallel the whole
no,
time.
absolutely not.
Maybe at one moment they were,
Not from what is in this
but
clip.
they're all at the background, the object, and the jet. They're changing their distance between each other the whole time because they're not all parallel.
right. And
And you can tell that by looking at this.
yeah,
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah. And
I didn't know if they were or not. That's what I was saying. I was like, I don't know.
I can say with
I don't know if maybe they
100
are, but I can't tell from this.
Yeah.
with 100% certainty they are not moving parallel to each other.
Okay.
That's not what this image would look like.
Okay.
That's cool.
It doesn't work that way. And because the gimbal has a limit to how far down it can look, that's something that you have to constantly keep track of, because if it goes down past that lock point and you're following something important like a vehicle with someone who just, put IEDs in the ground, and then your camera goes all crazy because it can't go any further, you've lost your target.
You're fine.
So this is something that I have to know, and I've had to know every day for the last 5 years overseas doing the real thing.
Yeah.
So one thing we can say for sure is they're not flying parallel with each other.
Absolutely not parallel.
But everything else is sort of
Everything
Up
else
in
is
the
kind of
air.
up in the air. The distance, it's hard to say. It's a small little dot, so it seems like it's probably closer to the water than the aircraft.
what do you think that is?
A balloon seems reasonable to me. Just a balloon that got away seems reasonable.
Little kid's balloon, he's watching it.
Yeah.
He's
It was like, it just ruined his birthday.
like,
Yeah.
that's someone's worst fucking
But
day of their
here's the
8-year-old
thing:
life.
if he can find out that it caused all this trouble, it might be worth it. It might be worth losing a balloon to have the world think
Dude, if
aliens
you could
exist.
track it,
shit, I
that's
would-
my fucking balloon.
I would release a balloon if I knew that was going to be the outcome. Like, yeah, let's spread a little magic into the world. But then again, at the end of the day, I would come out and say, like, nope, you're all wrong. Fuck you. There's no such thing as magic out there.
It says "Happy Birthday, Jimmy." I'm Jimmy.
That'd be so.
I'm the UFO.
They lock in, it zooms in, they like bring down the contrast, and it says "Happy
It's the
Birthday,
shape
Jimmy."
of
on
it's
it.
the shape of a Spider-Man. Okay, aliens are Spider-Man balloons. That's the only explanation.
Sorry.
So
I hope everyone's enjoying this because that was fun for me. Just digging into that.
yeah.
No, this has been
Yeah,
super
okay,
informative
cool.
so
I hope
far.
it's not annoying that I'm asking all these questions.
No, I love answering questions, and I have no problem saying if I don't know something. Like, if I don't know, then I'm not going to lead people down some kind of line of thinking that I don't have any proof for.
It's safer.
I'll
to
say,
handle it that way.
I try to be careful with my words and say, from my experience, that wouldn't happen
From
that
my
way.
perspective.
From my
That's
perspective.
that's why I said without a doubt they are not parallel, because I know that's how those cameras work exactly. Because I've lost vehicles because of not paying attention to that before.
Okay, so the
temperature thing.
oh the
That's
temperature
the other thing. So it looks cold because we're in black hot, right? BLK.
Oh
down
wait,
below.
that's in black
That's
hot.
in black hot.
Oh,
Interesting. So it looks
yeah.
cold. But remember what I said about water. It's the
fucks
only
with everything.
background. So the only reference is something that IR cameras don't work very well with in the first place. So this could be super hot and the sensor is getting tricked by the background being only water. This might be solid black if it was over land.
That's interesting.
So you can't say you have to know the flaws in the tech to
So
say
it's
with any
probably
certainty.
a balloon, but it might be hot as fuck, and you can't tell because the water's in the
Yeah,
background.
I can't tell you one way or the other. I can't say with any certainty. I do know I can say that water makes weird shit happen, and it's the only background we have. We don't have a land reference or any solid reference other than the object.
So there's no way to gauge the actual temperature of the object from the FLIR video because it's gonna have some issues
Whoa.
having the water in the background.
Yep.
That's a big one.
That is a really big one. The last video we're going to be talking about today is called FLIR One. This footage was captured in 2004 by Navy pilot David Fravor, and I think David Fravor was actually on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about this. Fravor was a pilot from the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier who was sent to investigate a possible target picked up by radar. The footage shows
Nimitz?
a tic-tac-shaped object hovering in the sky, but without any discernible movement. Again, this can all be
Coop, would you go on the Nebuchadnezzar with me?
with the ship from the Matrix,
Matrix?
or the
Yeah.
king from the Bible?
Which pill would you take?
The red pill or the blue pill?
Yeah. Now that you know everything you know.
To be perfectly honest, I would try to make the same deal that who was the dude who? Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to
Really?
do it.
What if I was Morpheus and you were Neo, and I came and found you? No, I was Trinity and you were Neo.
That's a bit more fitting.
Yeah. But I was like, look, dude, there's a world out there.
Would
But
I
I wasn't like a
Would
bitch.
I follow the white rabbit?
I think that they were fucked up and not being honest. If it was me, and I was like, dude, I woke up the other day and I was in this fucking shitty, fucked up world, but it's the real world. I just literally went through a phone to talk to you. It's me, Joel. Will you come with me and see the real world? And we have to fight these fucking guys, and we're probably gonna lose. Or do you want to stay here? But it's me, your boy.
I mean, fuck, it's indiscernible from reality, and if I get out of reality and it makes everything that much harder.
Or maybe it's easier. Depends on it for you, though, right? Like maybe just living on a ship,
Well,
and eating Soylent Green every day is better for you.
Eating shit that looks like soggy
And
cornflakes.
knowing what is actually the truth, you know.
I would appreciate knowing the truth, but I would stay in the Matrix
You would
because I mean,
you'd
it
leave
seems.
me? Well, I
Well,
left you, but I didn't have.
Yeah,
a choice.
exactly.
I didn't have a choice.
You left.
I didn't have a choice.
Okay, well, in that situation, I don't know. I mean, I guess once you get out, you can go back into the Matrix at any point
You can have
if
the,
you choose
the chick in
to.
the red dress as many nights as you want, all the time. You basically have free VR always.
Oh, wait, shit. I forgot that you can actually set up your own
Anything
programs
you
if you could. Okay, yeah, so I would get out just so I could set up my own program. Then I would tell people to plug me in and just fucking leave me in there until I die.
I'll
Just
give
set
you-
up some fantasy program and just stay there.
No, you take the deal in the first Matrix that the dude took and he ended up dying. You take the deal and they make you rich and powerful and
See,
you never
that-
have to worry about anything.
But we could
That's
do that.
that's the deal that I would
They put
take.
you back in the pod so that you live a full life and never piss your pants or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because
I
if
mean,
you
that-
if you just go out into your own rig, then
How
like
come
you
you
have to
didn't
get
just
up to
ask
eat.
Morpheus that? That's the thing. Like, literally, like, if you were there and we were hanging out and you were just like, Joel, this ship sucks. It smells like shit. The food is shit. Will you just plug me in and leave me in?
And just do
Morpheus
not.
would have fucking done that.
Well, somebody would have to get you set up with like a
We'll just throw
feeding
you-
system.
We'll throw you on a battery, put you outside, set you down. We'll plug you in the ship. Then we
But
just
you still
set
have to- you
set
still have to
outside
eat.
with a battery. No, because you're gonna die. You won't know.
Well, you'd be dead within a month that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that
but
doesn't
you
sound
won't
like
know
the
in
worst thing, but
We'll make sure the program's all set up that you have no idea you're starving to death.
okay.
Yeah, you have a good month.
Wait, how do I die? Do I die from a heart attack and a gangbang with a bunch of Victoria's Secret models?
You could die any way you want. I'm your boy.
All right.
Cool. But maybe hang out with me for like a year first.
A year outside of the Matrix, living in fucking
Couple
Zion with a bunch of like hippie fucking ravers. God no, I
That
would
part.
I would rather burn to death.
Whoa. I go with you, I think, actually.
Have you seen that party scene in Zion?
It's
That's
the
like
worst.
the combination of all the things that I hate the most in the world.
Dude, even as a kid, when I would watch I like Matrix 2, but I literally just skipped 30 minutes in because it's past all that bullshit. The Zion part sucked.
Oh yeah, everything in Zion. Well, I think it's in the third Matrix that they have the big battle with the mechs and
Pretty
the
cool.
robot. That part was pretty cool. Everything
Yeah.
else that happened in Zion
I
was
don't watch
fucking
3
lame.
ever. I watch 1 mostly, and then 2 after 30 minutes. The new one was not good either. Anyway, let's get back
I haven't
to
even bothered
UFOs. I just
watching
thought
it.
it would be good to break it up a little.
Not worth watching.
Which pill would you take?
Yeah, red pill or blue pill?
Uh,
I can't remember which is which.
I think from the outside looking at it, I would have taken the red pill.
Which
got-
one's the red pill?
The red pill gets you out, right?
I think
Puts
so.
you in the real world?
Yeah. Red pill gets you out. Blue pill gets you hard.
If only Roman was our sponsor, so that would have been a perfect segue into an ad.
So I would take the red pill and then absolutely be a traitor to mankind and have the robots set me up in a program where I live a long life with everything I could possibly want
Right?
and never have to remember coming out in the first place.
Yeah,
That was the
But
deal,
you'd have
and
to
that
sell out
seems
your
like
boy, though.
You wouldn't know that.
No, but you would know when you decided it.
Well, you would know when you
yeah.
decided.
So I'll deal with 30
you'd be-
minutes of feeling bad and then live 80 more years.
But it's your boy. Like, it'd be like Coop doing that to
But
me.
after I'm in, he's not my boy anymore. I don't know him.
True, but you still have that. You'd
Wait,
still
so
have
it's
to do it.
the situation. It has to be your best friend that you're selling out.
Yeah.
What happens if I just take both pills? Can I just?
You
can
end
I
up
just
out
fucking
really hard.
You end up in a weird.
You end up at the rave with
You're
a
69
huge
years
hard
old.
Oh shit! No, that sounds even worse.
No, everybody's.
A shitty rave with a boner. Yeah, God, sounds like my early
Learned a
20s.
lot about both of you today.
Well, no,
Well,
if
maybe I can make a deal where my boy comes in with me.
You could try that. But
Be like, hey,
Yeah, what if-
hey, I'll give you
Your boy wants to
Neo.
stay.
I'll give you Neo, but you got to bring this guy in with me.
What if your boy's Neo?
Bye. I can get.
That was an easy answer.
I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make you drink. Give you the best deal possible, and you're just like, no, it's super important
To live in a.
to
I know,
live
see-
a shittier life.
right? Like that's the thing I don't understand about the Matrix is what's the big deal about getting out of the Matrix when everything outside of the Matrix fucking sucks? It sucks worse than the Matrix does. I'll be a battery for the rest of my life if I can just be
seems like
comfortable.
in the newest one, it seems like they got, like, their homeland's pretty cool now.
Yeah.
They've got all self-sufficient shit. They got robots making all their food. No one really has jobs. They're all just kind of like working and hanging out and reproducing. They don't even like in the new one. They don't even use the Matrix anymore. They're just kind of like living in Zion.
God, the new Matrix movie sounds like it fucking sucks.
Well,
The robots that help them are cool. They're like
That's
weird mixture of they're like
yeah, they're pretty cool.
they look cool and the concept is weird. They're like in the Matrix, but they're allowed to be in their world through technology of some way that I don't understand. So they're they can do all kinds of crazy shit. They don't need to eat. They don't need to live. They don't take a lot of power or anything, but they can still interact with the real world, even though they're in the Matrix or something.
Wait, the robots are in the Matrix?
It's some shit like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid AI.
They're pulling AI. Oh yeah, it's AI. It's people that work in the Matrix that are AI that are free.
They have an
They're freeing
interface
AI.
on the outside.
Oh, they're
as well.
They're freeing AI.
They're giving them like avatars, but
Kind of.
avatars in like for AI.
I would say
Yeah.
it's more of an interface. It's not really an avatar. It doesn't look really like a bird. You can tell
Yeah,
the
like
AI
the new
away
Morpheus.
from.
It's like a young Morpheus guy. He's an
Yeah.
AI.
So they look like humans.
Well, he's just a human. Only when they're in the Matrix, and then when they come back to Zion, he's like this weird, like fucking AI robot thing that can
He's
still
like-
interact, but it's all weird.
He's like Johnny Five from
I
Short
don't
Circuit.
think he's actually physically there. I don't know. I have to watch it again. He's like he's like how the Emperor looked in the original Star Wars. He's like a hologram, but can interact. But only parts.
Yeah, still fuck that. Leave me in the
it's
Matrix.
yeah.
It's like a hologram, and then real life things attached to the hologram, so he can grab stuff. So like parts of him look real, but they look like little blocks. It's pretty cool. It looks really fucking cool.
So
It's
basically-
the only part of the movie that was cool.
Basically, the brain still lives inside the system, the matrix, the internet matrix, but it has a human interface, kind of like a cell phone.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's a way.
So
better
the
way of
way that you
explaining
can
it.
interact with the internet, because there's a human interface, like a mouse and a keyboard, but it's an AI that can talk and move things and think on its own.
Yeah,
But-
no, fuck
but-
that. Leave me in the Matrix.
Yeah.
And you,
does-
you
that
get like
does
a
nothing for me.
shittier version of real life.
Yeah, I don't get to be that. Then what the fuck do I care?
Yeah.
But you could be that because you could lock into the Matrix and then come back as an AI.
Yeah, but I could still copy my consciousness and do
That's
that
what I would
anyway.
would
I
do
could
that.
I could still
I
live
would
my
live in
life,
both. I would
copy
live-
my consciousness, and then that copy of me still gets to live forever, but I still get to live the dope life
True.
in the Matrix.
Yeah, overall-
you can literally have it all if you just sell out your buddy.
Yeah, never do it.
But you gave him a chance, and he chose not to.
Never do it.
The only way that I would
live in
ever,
both.
if we were in the Matrix, the only way that I would ever take myself outside of the Matrix is if I was guaranteed to be able to program my own version of the Matrix that I could just go back into.
Yeah,
like,
you-
okay,
you'd be
I'll
like
do it
Mouse.
then, but I'm not living in the fucking real world with
That's
the
what I would
scorched
do.
skies and the shitty robots trying to kill you all the time and the horrible
They
food.
cut around all the shit like in the Matrix, the movies. They don't really show what they're doing all the time. They're spending most of their time jacked up, of course.
I would hope so
That's how
because
they train,
Zion
that's
looks
how
like
they
it
do
fucking
everything.
sucks.
Yeah, they're all. Every Zion home has when you lay down, you jack in. There's no way it's not the case. And then it's kind of like you pick the amount of time you want to be in both worlds. That's what I would do. I'd have my palace that I lived in that I know is not real, but I would enjoy it like a video game, and then come back to reality and do the work that needs to get done to keep the human race going.
This episode is brought to you by the Metaverse.
Oh yeah, our sponsor for today is Mark Zuckerberg and the
lizard
the
people.
Let's
lizard
get to the
people.
last
Yeah,
one.
that's what I was gonna say.
Let's get to the last one and get the fuck out of here.
No, we got to the last one. Last one is called FLIR One, captured by Navy pilot David Fravor. The footage shows a tic-tac-shaped object hovering in the sky, but without any discernible movement. There's no discernible movement from the object itself, and any perceived movement coincides with adjustments to the camera. Like the Gimbal video, this was most likely a commercial or private aircraft.
I think it's the Nebuchadnezzar. It looks the exact shape of the Nebuchadnezzar.
The Nebuchadnezzar didn't look like a blurry tic-tac.
Yes,
So
it
is
does.
this the one?
If it was blurry,
See, yeah, that's the tic-tac video.
So right off the
FLIR
bat,
One.
you see how these overlays are
It's
significantly
blurry as fuck.
So
yeah,
they-
like you were talking about earlier.
because they're burned into the image. They can't reduce the
quality of the
quality of
original.
the video without affecting the overlays as well. So after the fact, after this was recorded, it was reduced in quality
On purpose.
on purpose. There's no way to
I
do
think
that
that's
by
something
accident.
that we were discussing on the original episode, is whether or not that information is baked into the footage itself, or if
Yeah.
there's like a raw file of the footage
Yeah,
somewhere.
this is baked in.
What they
Okay.
release is for sure baked in low res. Now that I didn't even notice that the first time. But
Yeah, I
compared
didn't
to
even
the
notice
other
that,
images,
that the rest of it was
the baked
blurry.
in stuff is so lower quality.
And that's why we have people on the show that are smarter than us.
Yeah. And what are the reasons for that?
For reducing the quality?
Just so we can't really see what it is.
I can't think of any other reason other than making it harder to get information out of it.
So it's
Because someone has to go out of their way to reduce the quality.
or if it's like a copy of a copy or a compressed file or something like that, that would maybe they just didn't have Dropbox
Yeah,
back when they first uploaded
some,
this.
Some guy at the CIA was like, Jessica, just sent on the goddamn video, and she sends a thumbnail instead of the original file. Fucked it all up, and that's what
That's
that
not
also-
outside of, like, human error. It's not outside of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, that's
Frankly.
probably the explanation
fallback,
for
though.
the vast majority of unexplainable things is humans are very fallible, and honestly,
So it's the easiest way to cover something up. You just blame it on human error, blur the fuck out of it, lower the quality, and send it out because you have to.
But even like all the claims of it being it's not moving and any perceived movement is based off of camera adjustments, this is so low quality that you can't tell if it's moving anyway. I don't know what the background is. I can say it looks like a 5-degree up pitch, maybe 5 or 6. Single digit, but not negative.
so
Right.
it's above the jet that was.
Yeah, it's looking
at
slightly
least
up.
slightly up from the jet that was recording.
Yep.
That part I didn't know about.
But I can't tell if the background is clouds or if it's clear day. I can't like the foggy outline around it looks like it's not optimized, but I can't even say that with any confidence
Does it
because
change to
Because
black?
it's such a low quality image.
it's an obviously lowered quality image. So I don't know what the actual guy saw.
But you know what mode it's in.
Yeah,
Is that
But I
black hot? I'm assuming, or is that white hot?
that looks like more like white hot maybe. Let me look at it.
Play it.
So it's still if it's in white hot, that means that it's still colder than the ambient temperature, unless there's water behind it. Well, if it's filming upward,
There's no
I
water.
mean, unless the jet's in a fucking nosedive, it's
If it's filming upward, it's not water behind it. Is that true?
That makes sense to me. Yes. 5 degrees up. It looks like it's in white hot. So that is weird. Now,
so it is. Apparently,
Wait a second.
it's colder than.
Ooh, this is interesting. So, okay, hold on. I'll show you what I just saw.
Yeah, explain what you're looking at here. What's interesting?
I didn't notice this before. So you see, this is WHT.
So it is in white hot.
It is in white hot. But watch what happens. So you can obviously tell there's a polarity change right here. But that still says white hot.
What the hell?
And that's fucking weird.
So what does that mean?
Good question.
It
Very good question.
well, it also zoomed out at the the same time.
It also zoomed out. It's not as the image is way smaller. Like the object is way smaller. Look how close it is there.
And then as soon as the object switches to white, it's a much wider field of view.
So, let's see.
Interesting.
Trying to see. It doesn't even look like they have the timestamp on it. Because usually you could watch the seconds roll by and tell if there's a hard cut.
See if
Oh.
they jump.
But
in
I don't
time.
see. I don't see the timestamp. It's usually up in this corner.
Interesting.
It looks like it's got the month there,
March. Yeah.
but no rolling timestamp. You see right there.
Is-
It looks
is
like
that-
March, MAR.
Yeah, is that normal that there
You can-
wouldn't be a
you
timestamp
can
on any of these videos? Or-
Configure these things. This is weird though, because at the same time, we got white hot down here.
And then
There's the change,
it doesn't change the settings though.
and he did zoom out. A lot of these cameras have a step zoom, so it zooms in a certain distance and then zooms in again a certain distance.
Yeah.
The one that I used, it was a gradual zoom, so you could fine tune it. And I always hated you using this on the shadow. The Arizon doesn't have this issue, but he did zoom out, probably because he was worried about losing his track box whenever he switched. That's
And
my guess
it
of the
changed-
operation.
It changed from the object being black to the object being white without changing whether
Yeah, the overlay
it's white
did.
hot or black
The
hot.
overlay didn't change what it was reporting, which is very strange.
What would be your interpretation of that from your experience?
Okay, it's locking back on.
Another
It
thing
still says
that's
white,
weird.
yeah.
So, the degree here didn't change. Is it still playing? Yeah, it's still playing. The degree here is barely changed. I don't know how that could happen if this is standing still, but the plane isn't, and the plane can't because that's not how fixed wing works.
Yeah, they generally
So
fall
I don't
out of
know.
the
I don't know
sky if
how
they
the
sit still.
yaw.
Are they flying? Is it chasing it? They're flying at the same parallel to each other, like that. Like like the plane's going that way and the jet's following it exact.
That makes the most sense, which is contradictory to. I can't figure out how the camera is not moving, but the plane is, unless it's in a perfect orbit around it. But it's still looking up, so that's
Wait, but
strange.
even-
It's looking up though. Yeah.
and
It's
and
it's looking up, but if it was orbiting around this object, I mean,
you would still see the yaw change. The yaw's
and
not changing.
The plane is also flying. The jet that's filming it is also flying level, from what we can tell from the,
Yeah,
the horizon line.
And this should be changing if it's going around in a circle, because this is the yaw.
So the only way that would be able to happen is if the jet was actually pursuing an object that was flying at the same speed.
Yeah. Seems to be. I can't think of another reason. Unless the only other thing that I can think of is if this camera is not actually on a jet, but on like more of an aerostat, which is basically a blimp that's tethered to the ground. So
Well,
it's a single point, and it's
Okay.
looking at a single point. That's
Because this
the only
video
thing that I can think of.
was allegedly recorded by David Fravor, a
Yeah.
Navy pilot. So I
Yeah.
don't think that
The only way
sitting
that-
in a blimp.
Well, you could see the horizon thing slightly changing.
It moves a little bit,
Little bit.
but not as much. If it was actually orbiting something, it would be banking.
So it's chasing it.
Yeah, and right there at the end, it looked like it just lost the track box.
The
Like when it
object
looks like
didn't-
it zips away, it looks like the track box lost it, so the camera's just kind of going.
So if it lost the track box and it moves this way, that means that the plane was probably moving a little bit to the right of the object, right? Because if you lose the tracking and
Well, no, because it's got the
it
yaw
looks
at
like
the
it
top,
flies
doesn't
away
it?
left.
see.
So they're flying like this from each other. Like that thing was moving like this, and the jet was flying like this. That's what I think.
So what? It like roughly.
So because if it lost the lock and it looks like it flies to the left suddenly, but if it's lost the lock, then the camera just kept aiming straight instead of turning with it. So the jet might be moving to the right.
If it goes to the left, then that would be the same as I'm looking at it like this, and it goes this way compared to the camera.
Yeah.
So if
It's
I'm
moving
looking,
to
if I'm
the-
if
to the
I'm
left
if
of the
I'm
frame.
looking to the left of the aircraft, then it's going
So
the
you're-
opposite direction. If I'm looking
you're
to
going
the
like
right,
this, right?
it's going the same direction. But my guess is he's probably looking to the left. I don't know why, but that's my guess.
That's interesting.
But it is there's a lot of weird things about that one
Yeah,
that I don't have.
that-
So what does it mean when
the
it-
fact
when
that
it-
it didn't change?
To black.
It didn't change what it was reporting the polarity to be is
Could
weird.
the display just be bullshit?
Probably maybe.
Yeah.
Well, that one, Where was that one filmed? Wasn't that off the coast of San Diego or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Fucking crazy. So when it switches the zoom and the color of the ship changes colors, what would that mean if they didn't adjust the IR filter?
So the
That would mean it,
adjustment,
like turned on some heat or something?
well, you never know what you're jumping into, and sometimes it can look radically different when you change polarities. Like there are certain reasons
they
why you
didn't.
would use one.
According to the overlay?
According to the overlay, they didn't, but they
the-
obviously did because everything flipped.
Interesting.
Everything that was black turned to white.
That's really interesting. That makes me think that the overlay itself is not.
It was
I mean,
it was put on after the fact
it
to make people
couldn't
feel
be
like
accurate.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
And they were just recording it clean.
And
So
this was
the positive.
this was also in 2004. Do you think that there's been enough of a change in the technology itself that maybe it doesn't work in the manner that you're familiar with? But I mean, even then, overall, it doesn't make sense that it would change from white hot to black hot without
the display
the
changing.
overlay changing, unless the overlay was fake.
Yeah, I can't.
Or is a glitch in the system where he hit the zoom out and the overlay swap at the exact same time, so the display just didn't recognize?
Unlikely. I would have to.
Computers are infallible. I've never had a bug in a computer before.
So
Like when you hit jump and shoot at the same time in our game?
Oh God, that just made me think of. Yeah, working on that Mighty Maniacs game was
A lot more work than we thought it was going to be.
way more work. Well, I mean, making any video game is a
I'm glad
fuck
we
ton of
made
work.
it, though. It was
No,
fun.
me too. I loved it. I miss programming, but anyway, that was off topic.
topic.
What were you saying, David?
I don't know. It would be more helpful to know where they actually recorded the footage. If this is the footage that came out of the recording inside the aircraft, or if it was being pushed out somewhere else. Because essentially
Like
the
it's
way
a feed going to a different, like a different terminal or something.
yeah, so
I'm sure they
like
do
a
the
remote
both.
viewing type thing. So it would be the same thing that we do with the drones. It would just be a video signal pushed out from the plane to an antenna that knows the frequency and all that, and you can see the video on the ground. And there are devices specifically for this. What are they called? OSRVTs, one system remote video terminals. You've probably seen them. You deployed, right?
No,
You never deployed?
No, never deployed.
Did you ever work around any kind of like JRTC or anything like that? No. Well, they have these big these antennas that look like big gumdrops. There's just a big dome on a tripod, and that's kind of the calling card for it. There's other antennas that are less conspicuous, but it's literally all it is to pull in video from various radios.
Okay.
So if you're pushing video on UHF, VHF, not VHS.
if you're watching old school porn on a VHS.
Like, oh shit, there's an unidentified flying object. He's like, goes through his duffel bag while flying a jet and like puts a VHS tape into a VCR.
Like, fuck, we have to rewind it.
Oh man, I'm recording over my kid's birthday.
But yeah, all the different frequency bands. So if they're recording off of that still doesn't explain. Because I was thinking maybe there's like a packet loss over the transmission.
What's that?
So the way that information is passed is in what's called packets. So if a packet, for whatever reason, the signal's not strong enough or something interferes a little bit, there's packet priority. So like important things that you need to know, like your engine health, come in first, and what polarity your camera's in might not be a high priority packet.
Oh, so it just didn't that specific packet of information didn't get updated if it was recording on if the footage was from a remote.
Yeah, if it was recorded on the ground from a remote whatever, then that's a potential answer, but it still doesn't explain it because the
rest of
overlay
the
should be
doesn't change.
the overlay should be baked in and pushed all out as video. There shouldn't be any telemetry from the gimbal pushed out. That's useless data on the ground. That would be the least efficient way to go about it. which doesn't rule it out, but
That's
it doesn't
really,
make any sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting that the overlay isn't matching up with what's going on in the video itself.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense because the overlay should be baked in the aircraft and then pushed out over the video signal, not over a separate telemetry signal.
Interesting.
I don't know what
really
the point of a
interesting.
separate telemetry signal would be.
I mean, unless it's just pure misdirection, but at the same time, they could redact if there was any real sensitive information on the overlay. They could just redact
They
it.
typically just blur it.
Yeah, but having false information
Put in after the fact and then reduced in quality, thinking that
That's
nobody would notice
wild.
that it didn't change.
Okay,
It's strange.
That
that is weird.
That is pretty fucking weird.
And I didn't notice that before.
Yeah, I haven't heard
So
anybody
just-
talking about that either when it comes to this specific video. I've never heard anybody point any of that information out before.
Yeah. So let's just say, just as a wild card, let's say that the data is true.
Yeah, if the
the
overlay
infor-
information is true, what would be your
What would cause that? Why would the color of the object change?
The only way that the image changes like that, where everything flips, is if they changed polarity.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else.
Well, because even in that video, the background changes too. When
Yeah,
when
that's-
it switches
color
from,
changes in
from
that's
white
that's
out
what
to
I'm
black
saying.
out.
Like the entire image flips, not it flips and up is down, but black is
straight
white.
up bullshit. Then
Yeah,
Like,
there's no
guaranteed.
way. There's no way that all of these colors
That's wild.
completely
Yeah.
flip. You saw
So they literally just sent out bullshit.
why? Hold
The-
on a second.
well,
I may have just noticed something else. Hold on.
if the overlay's been faked, then that means that there's no way to determine
Oh shit!
the orientation of the plane in relation to the object or anything like that. I mean, it essentially makes.
Well, that's what I'm saying about it being weird that the degrees aren't really changing that much. If you're in a jet, you can only go so slow.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't creep at 1 mile per hour
Yeah, or else
or one knot.
you eventually stop flying.
Yeah, you hit stall speed.
And you go into a tailspin like in Top Gun.
Or like in the cartoon Tailspin.
Great movie. Great show.
I loved that show.
What did you just see?
So-
You just went, oh shit.
So it's really fast. I don't know if there's a way to do slow motion on YouTube.
You can creep forward 1 frame at a time with what is it?
In editing, it's J and L, but
I think on YouTube it's either one of the bracket keys or it's like period and comma or something.
Period and comma.
no.
Oh, it's moving.
Oh, it's going. An alien face.
Oh, there it is. It looks a lot like a whale penis. Let me see.
It's the Loch Ness Monster.
What was that rotation of light right there?
That's probably an effect of what we were talking about earlier, where it's not optimized for.
It looks optical though.
Let's see if we can catch it. You see how that goes out past the border of the original video?
Yeah. Whoa. What the
That
fuck?
had to be put in after the fact when it was before it was given.
Look
that
at this.
didn't.
Show Coop this. Look, the transition is bullshit.
This
It's wider than the overlay.
this is
What
wider,
the fuck?
This is wider than the actual frame of the image.
So this is one of the frames at the 43-second mark of the ABC News video called Pentagon Declassifies Navy UFO Videos, video 1 out of 3. And at the 43-second mark,
It's a fake fucking transition.
It's fake interference or degradation. Because it's bigger than the frame of what was actually recorded.
And it's
that-
not even covering it all. Like the bottom is still there.
Well, that's kind of believable that it wouldn't degrade the entire thing.
Okay.
But the fact that it goes out past the border of what the sensor was seeing is impossible.
Yeah.
There's no way that's in the original video.
That's very interesting. I mean, overall, that
Somebody between what was recorded and what was handed off, or between what was recorded and what was played on the news, put this in.
At some point, yeah.
that's weird.
And this doesn't even look
Wait,
like...
does that coincide with it switching from white hot to black hot?
No.
Really? So that's separate from that transition.
That shouldn't be a thing at all, which makes me think that the other little blips were also put in artificially.
Just to like jump around in time and not show you things for some reason.
Or to make it seem older and to justify the degraded image.
Also,
2004 shouldn't be this bad.
Well, also you pointing out that there's no actual timestamp on the video makes it so you wouldn't be able to spot cuts that were put in there.
Mm-hmm. So that was purposely not there.
And they're claiming it's staying still, which would make it hard to see cuts too.
Yeah, that's... well, I mean, that it doesn't make me think that...
It doesn't mean it's an alien, but it means there's something weird going on.
Well, it makes me question the purpose behind the video that much more. That there's seemingly false information that they're giving along with it.
They still didn't release it. Is what I see.
And it's
they didn't
not
release it.
They
released parts of it.
That makes me think that
only
it's
going to release what they want to release.
Yeah, and that makes me think that it's
because
most
they don't
likely
have to.
Misdirection. I'd need to look up the information, but I would guess that this video was released right around the time of a possible political scandal that they wanted to distract people from. They're like, oh fuck, we need to aliens.
Aliens works every time.
Somewhere around like April 27th of 2020.
Is that when this was released?
Yes. That was when this was put on
2020.
YouTube, on ABC News. So I imagine pretty quickly for them.
Yeah, they probably would have got that
first.
up really fast. I'd have to go through and check things out, but
there wasn't anything important that happened in 2020 though.
That we know of because we were too distracted by this.
It was
this
a
alien
pretty
video.
calm year, 2020.
2020.
There's. I mean,
vision.
I can't think of anything strange that may have happened in 2020.
I like the 2020 like New Year's glasses. Those were fun.
Have you noticed that they're just riding that fucking train with those glasses, the New Year's glasses?
Just keep them going.
It worked all the way up until like 2010, and now it's fucking retarded.
How do you see through them now?
It's just big glasses.
It's a conspiracy.
Trying to manipulate the
this
population.
This isn't Con Men podcast, but this actually, fuck. I
This
wish
could have
that.
been.
I know. I wish
This
that
is becoming more and more.
I asked Sean to come on today, but he couldn't make it out. That would have been cool for him to be here.
When do you think the next time you'd be able to make it out to Austin is? Because it would be awesome to have you on an episode of Con Men talking about UFO
some other UFO shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. But
yeah, if you ever make a trip back out here again, we will set aside an episode of Con Men for you so we can get you back on the show to fill in these blanks that...
Yeah, I'll happily do that.
Yeah,
that was pretty interesting.
I know. I honestly thought that this was going to be like a 30 to 45 minute bonus episode, and here we are coming up on 2 hours, and I've been locked in the entire time. Yeah. This has been awesome. But David, thank you so much for coming out, and I mean, you extended your trip to hang out longer, which we really appreciate.
And you, a lot more evidence, a lot more interesting things, but still no real answers.
Third video, the FLIR One, the one that we were just talking about,
obviously been fucked with, and that's wild. The other ones you don't think were fucked with at all? Just probably user error type shit.
I mean, nothing that couldn't be explained away to cutting out boring parts, stuff that there's nothing really to see. Not that is the reason, but it's reasonable to say that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
This
putting fake degradation that doesn't even fit the frame on top of and the quality, if you really look at it, the pixels in this are better than the actual image.
Yeah. It doesn't even look like the same shit.
Wait, yeah,
this is more
that
crisp.
Makes even less sense.
So not only is somebody intentionally putting this in to distract from something,
But
they're not even good at
use the
it.
original footage. They use the original, like, 1080 footage.
Yeah, that makes me lean more towards the government, but
Well, yeah,
the
because
fact that they're incompetent as well. But,
government usually goes with the cheapest contract that they can find.
yep,
So
that's how I got a job.
Dude, it was a fucking pilot, dude. He said some wisecracking joke that would have got him fired. I was like, oh yeah, I fucked the commander's fucking daughter. It was crazy. Oh shit, we're recording. Went down, got the file, deleted up.
Cut that
clip
part out.
Yeah, cut that shit out.
Like, just make it sound like aliens.
Yeah. No, aliens.
Aliens.
It's just a lot of theremin sounds. That's what aliens
The
sound like
whole
when they're
alien
flying.
conspiracy was just because he was banging.
It's just because you
the
don't want to
daughter.
get in trouble.
He's
Yeah.
banging the admiral's daughter.
Yep.
All right, well, that's it for this episode of the Iconoblast podcast. This bonus episode of the Iconoblast podcast.
Tangents. It's a tangent.
Yeah, it was a tangent.
I'm gonna
it was a
I'll
little late,
title
but
it
yeah,
tangent
we'll title
number
it a
3.
tangent. Tangent number, but it's also episode 70 something. Episode 70 something. Tangent number 3, something like that.
Yeah, it'll be a bonus, so it
Doesn't
won't be.
really
It won't
matter.
have a number.
Yeah, everybody's going to have fun with it anyway. But you can follow us on Instagram at Iconoblast Podcast. You can follow me at Coop Nukem, COOPNUKEM. I realize I probably should have been spelling that out more often because not everybody is a Duke Nukem fan,
They'll figure it out.
which they should be.
You search Coop, it comes up pretty quick. There's not a lot of Coops out
Did-
there. Coop N, and then you're up there. And
Alright,
if they
well-
already follow Iconoblast, you show up.
Yeah, if you follow us at Iconoblast Podcast, you can follow Joel at Joel R. Benner. I mean, you got an Instagram you
don't-
want to
I
direct
don't-
people to, or
I don't post anything.
you got anything else you want to plug while you're here?
This well penis. Yeah, that's it. That's all I
This is
got.
going to be a good video episode. This is going to be filmed
realistic photograph of this whale penis.
on,
Yeah,
on,
right here.
on David's Etsy account.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just put the degradation on top of it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see everybody next week. Or actually, I don't even know when this
This'll come
bonus
out whenever
episode.
it can come
Yeah,
out.
it'll just come out whenever it's ready.
Yeah. Probably after
We've
Vikings or in between the Vikings. Or
We've got
next few weeks.
another guest that we're trying to line up that I don't want to announce just yet, but we're trying to follow Josh Barnett with another
juicy.
juicy
Another
guest.
juicy,
and
strong
he
man.
is a hunk of a man, I will tell you that much. So yeah, we'll see you all next week. My name is Matt Cooper,
I'm Joel Benner.
And I'm David Cline.
and we're reminding you to never take anything at face value and don't believe anything the government fucking says.
Aliens are real. Aliens are real.
Aliens
are real.
Aliens are real. They've never been to Earth.
Aliens are real.
They're real. They have never been to Earth.
Aliens are real.
They have never been to Earth.